Hey kids, howdy. Welcome once again to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. And we are in it, kids. The Eclipse wormhole has us in its grip. Last week was just insane. I don't know. We haven't talked since then.
No, I'm pretty busy right now, but nothing where I'm like, oh, fuck the astrology. Not so far. Okay, well, knock on wood.
And that's actually good. That's instructive, right? Because not everybody meets the same sort of experience based on where eclipses are hitting your natal chart. So I'm having a big experience because of the way it's hitting me. You are having a less big experience in terms of eclipse transformational stuff.
Yeah.
But you're busy, you're active, you're moving a lot because the energy is busy, active, and moving a lot. Right. And so, in my daily astro alerts, I'm doing like pure astrology. And sometimes people won't, they'll sign up for it and be like, oh, I'm so excited. And then they realize it's not a horoscope. It's not like saying, Capricorns, you're going to have this experience, right?
One might think there's too many words here.
Yeah.
That's when you turn to the podcast.
Right. At any rate, it's quite a week. The sun is going to be revealing a lot to us this week. It's really all about the sun, so I'll talk about that when we start talking about the movements, but let's do a question as we usually do. Alexandra writes, hello. I have a question regarding one's moon sign and sun sign and how the transits to our moon versus sun might be more deep or profound. My hypothesis is that if there are more, and she puts this in quotes, thank you, positive aspects transiting my moon sign, that it will be easier to move forward and really find my worth. I love that she's talking worth because my subconscious rules my belief systems and worth. Kind of like we're programmed in the underground. Yes, love that language. I understand that the sun represents conscious awareness. Guessing that positive transits to my natal sun placement would give me a boost in certain areas, but is there a difference in the gravity or depth of experience in real life when these transits, and I have to read this because I loved it, sextile, trine, conjunction, or your favorite, the what do you call it, the inconjunct, affect to one's personal moon signs versus the sun sign. Does the moon win? Love your show, Alexandra.
This is a great question.
This is a fantastic question. And because we're talking about the sun this week, it's a good question to ask.
And eclipse season is related to the moon, right?
Well, really to the moon and the sun. I mean, you can't, you're right. It's the system that eclipses, not the sun and the moon. In other words, the luminaries work together always. In fact, the sun and the moon represents our spiritual body, right? In the four-body system, it's physical body, Mars, Mercury, mental body, emotional body is Venus, but your spiritual body is the sun and the moon. So yes, eclipse season is when our conscious awareness, sun, and our unconscious, especially in a lunar eclipse, are forced to work together powerfully to create unconscious changes, moon, in your conscious awareness, sun. So back to Alexandra's question and the specificity of it, does the moon win? And yes, the moon wins if you use the template of the slowest planet wins and the fastest body has more intensity. So meaning in your chart, the sun has its power, but the moon moves so fast that we would call it a much more sensitive point than the sun. And then, of course, the ascendant, the rising sign, is even more sensitive because it's created by the spin of the Earth. The faster the body creating the point, the more sensitive and intense it is. When a planet or a point like the nodes transits your sun, you are having some kind of a shift in your conscious awareness, becoming more aware of something or being surprised by something you didn't know. Like if it's Neptune touching your sun, it might be like confusing you or lifting the veil of confusion, but it's all about your conscious awareness. Now, the unconscious is the much bigger place.
Yeah, that's the one talking in your ear all day.
All day, yes, the unconscious is bubbling up with all of the material that's below, where indeed, as Alexandra's language shows she understands completely, that's where all the work is done. So when a planet or point like the nodes hit someone's moon, while it's harder to know what the in real life experiences will be because it's the unconscious that will be expressing it, now we're talking about deep changes that then get put into our conscious awareness, right? The sun can't change us. It can only reveal who we are. The moon changes us radically all throughout our life. So yes, Alexandra, the moon wins. So just like we were talking about with Alexandra's question, solar transits versus lunar transits are an interesting sort of significance, right? That lunar transits describe energy that is reflected because the unconscious is active. But solar transits are simply about our conscious awareness expanding. And because we're in an eclipse, we're talking about wormhole level of expanding consciousness. In fact, we call the time between eclipses a wormhole, which is a quantum physics principle where the universe sort of folds in on itself and a particle can move through a fold in the time-space continuum and theoretically arrive on the other side of the universe in an instant. So that's what the eclipse is like, that we transform who we are and release unconsciously in every full moon. But when the eclipse comes along, it's deeper, it's more transformational, and it has an impact on us. And because this eclipse season has the sun in Pisces, that means that our global conscious awareness that the transiting sun offers us is offering expansion that's unconscious more directly because the sun is in the land of the unconscious in Pisces. So I'm going to talk about the sun's movement this week because almost every day we have a different kind of focus with regard to how and in what ways we are becoming more aware. So today and Wednesday are big moments for our awareness with regard to what this eclipse is designed to bring us, the whole eclipse season. Now, because this is a North Node eclipse, it is about our forward movement, where we're going next. This can be confusing to some people because they think if the moon in a full moon eclipse is near the South Node, as this one was, that it's a South Node eclipse, that it's about releasing the past. That is an error. The idea that there is an eclipse is because the sun is aligned with one of the nodes. So the sun doesn't change alignment just because the full moon is over there in the South Node. Our conscious awareness is aligned with where we're going next, making the whole lunar cycle about releasing shit so we can become more powerful in our forward movement. And so the forward movement point is the North Node of the moon, which invented eclipses, if you will. And so while the eclipse was last week, today is the day where our conscious awareness is going to be vibing with the collective sense of where the world is going and how you fit into that. You know, this whole season is about this kind of a rebirth that Pisces to Aries offers us. I've been talking about it constantly. So today's energy is asking you, and this Monday, if you listen to this podcast later in the week, Monday is asking us to dial into what we're seeing, both in our individual lives and in the collective, and just sort of pay attention to what you're thinking about your future. Then on Wednesday, the sun moves just enough to conjunct Neptune. Now, this is juicy because it's Neptune's movement into Aries at the end of this month that's going to kick off the fire driven by beliefs and ideologies. So you look around the world, especially in the United States, that looks like it's already on fire, and I'm here to tell you that April is going to be more.
God.
I'm not pulling punches anymore, kids. Like, I think in the past I would have tried to be a little more like, oh, don't worry about it. But it's crazy. The thing you all have to know is we benefit from Neptune in Aries, all of us. Even if on the other side of some divides, Neptune in Aries is going to be scary and dangerous, and it is, it's all also an energy of us all stepping more activatedly into guiding our lives through our beliefs in a preparatory way. So while the rebirthing I'm talking about is really about Mercury and Venus and Saturn and Neptune moving in and out of Pisces into Aries, the sun's gonna do it first this week in the Equinox. So the sun's conjuncting of the North Node on Monday and Neptune on Wednesday is part of the rebirth that I've been talking about, only it's the sun, so it's about our conscious awareness. You don't have to be digging into the below to get what you need to know about where you're going this week. It's natural that last week was the kind of pushing us into the deep end of the pool. And while we're still in the pool, we're treading water more effectively Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just in time to celebrate the equinox on Thursday. All right, speaking of the sun, keep in mind, kids, that while we live in a modern world, the modernity that drives us is so new. And our DNA has thousands of years of humans gathering that led to civilization eventually. In other words, our modern DNA includes all of humans' history of gathering into community and creating the collective that we enjoy today. And how did we do that? We looked at the sun. The sun and our movement around it is, A, it's very predictable. B, it creates seasons. C, seasons are what generated the capacity of people to farm and feed the masses. And once you could do that and settle and no longer have to wander to hunt and gather, people could start to specialize. I love this idea because as a gay man, two-spirit, I would have been one of those specialists. I would have been like, hey, guys, I don't really want to hunt. But I'll tell you what, I'll stay back, and while you guys hunt, I'll prepare a fabulous ceremony. Right, so I feel a real personal connection to the idea that some of us looked up. Now, today, millions and millions of us are looking up in the same way. And I think one of the reasons why astrology is having such a big comeback, even though I fucking hate 85% of the astrology that's out there because it's crap.
Yeah.
It's coming back because there's a fundamental way that life, as complicated as it is in steel and concrete, is as simple as it's ever been when you look up at the sun. So for thousands of years, we have recognized this moment in the northern hemisphere as the beginning of spring. We look to the sun to tell us what it was time to do. And because spring, again, apologies to my folks down under, these archetypes are created by virtue of the northern hemisphere farming year. The beginning of spring is the renewal after the death of winter, and so it has movement to it. Spring fever comes, and we want to get active and moving. Well, that's an Aries quality. That's why the astrological new year starts up in the Aries mansion. And we call this the first mansion of the zodiac. In fact, I don't know if I can convey this quickly enough, but the reason why so many people are like, well, astrology can't be real because we're no longer in alignment with the constellations from thousands of years ago. So that, yes, indeed, the vernal equinox would not be 0 degrees of Aries if you pull out your phone and look up at the sky and try to see where the sun is. It'll say 17 degrees earlier than that because we've moved. But Western astrology does not give a shit about the stars in the sky. It's all about time moving. And it's not about Aries, it's about the sun and the earth at this moment of perfect balance, days and nights of equal length, where we begin again and move towards the light of later spring and summer. This is that start-up moment. So there's no denying that the sun and the earth are in this configuration. And yeah, 4,000 years ago, it might have been aligned with some stars in the sky, and we have moved. But Western astrology is not about the stars in the sky. The constellations were just the billboards that were placed 4,000 or 5,000 years ago for these signs. Those have shifted a little bit, but nothing changes the fact that on Thursday of this week, the sun and the earth will be in this alignment, and that starts off astrology. We call that 0 degrees of Aries, and you don't have to be concerned with the fact that it doesn't match the stars because it matches the sun and the earth, and that's us. And we are in our start up of the astrological new year on Thursday. And yeah, it's in the middle of a crazy fucking eclipse season. So besides just celebrating the equinox as I will, which is in ceremony, it's a ceremony about balance and harmony. There will definitely be a mandala drawing in that process, which I do every year on the equinox. But I also want you to put a nod to that we are in an eclipse season, that the entire year ahead is about this shift from Pisces into Aries. So pay attention to how the sun's movement through Pisces and into Aries this week reveals some conscious awareness expansion for you, because in some ways that's almost more important to me that you do that than you celebrate or honor the eclipse in a ritual way. So let's talk about Venus. And we're going to talk about her kind of in two ways. One is about her connection with Pluto this week that's part of her retrograde triple transits. But on the 22nd, which is Saturday, the sun will conjunct Venus. So just as the sun is helping us understand our forward movement today, our spiritual connection on Wednesday, our sense of beginning the astrological new year on Thursday, and then on Saturday, it's about awareness of what's happening in your heart experiences in the below. Because Venus is retrograde. Half of her consciousness is in our unconscious mind, helping us reorder how we give and receive love, how we relate to our finances, how to be more loving in unloving circumstances, because Venus has to do that in Aries, where in Pisces she lives out loud and she loves out loud, I guess I should say, and she's heading back in there. So it's really important over the weekend to take some stock through your conscious awareness expansion of not only what you want in your love life and your finances and your regulation of the emotional body in a time when the world is on fire and all of us need a little extra help regulating our emotional bodies. There's this awareness that's happening, but keep in mind that we're in a process. So we're not going to see a finished product over the weekend. But Venus is going to sextile Pluto on Friday as the sun is getting ready to conjunct Venus on Saturday. So this is one of the triple transits and probably the one that allows the deepest change possible in terms of how we live in our heart. Well, Pluto is about change. Pluto is change at the level of death and rebirth. Pluto in a sextile says it's as productive as can be, but you're gonna have to take the arsenic yourself. You're gonna have to say, I will allow myself to die on the altar of what I think love is for me, so that whatever your unconscious is like begging you to shift and change and transform through doing shadow work and integration work, this sextile is the nugget of change and transformation. But it's a sextile. Sextiles require action. They are potential only. So if you've been sitting it out, you're not going to emerge at the end of the Venus retrograde changed. But if you've been showing up to the lessons and dynamic stuff that's reflecting an unconscious process, Friday's energy is powerful. It harkens back to February 7th. So you can look back to the beginning of February for whatever was going on in your heart and your relationships and in your bank account might be coming up again, but now Venus is retrograde and the sun is shining. That's fabulous because Pluto is where the sun don't shine.
Yeah.
Right? The underworld. There's no sunlight down there. Now, that's the value of Pluto and the shadow and the underworld. But to have our heart sort of saying, I lay myself back on this altar, Pluto, so that you can kill me at the level of love and finances and emotional body regulation, so I might be reborn through this cycle. And then the sun sort of is shining its light that day and the next day and a little bit on Sunday to help us be consciously aware of some of the changes that are happening in the below. Understand that with all of these personal planet retrogrades, things that we are processing, becoming aware of, and transmuting will happen in layers, right? So this weekend's energy from Venus and Pluto will come back on May 6th. So we're not done with whatever we're learning about love and finances and emotional regulation. So keep that in mind. As we move through the end of the weekend, the sun is going to sextile Pluto, right? You see both Venus and the sun, because they're in the same territory, are hitting the Lord of the underworld. Sort of between Saturday and Sunday, both our conscious awareness and our experience of love will be in process of deep change and transformation. And if the weekend ahead is baffling to you or creates things that seem like it generates more questions than answers or deepens some confusion or relational work or shadow work for yourself, be gentle and patient because everything's going to take time to layer itself out. And this is true really for March, April, and early May. When we get there, all of these personal planet retrogrades will be wrapped up and we will be in very different territory to navigate some of the dicier energy that's coming this summer. But we're in the middle of the psychic surgery, kids, so just lay back, surrender, and let change happen. Have at it.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily Astro Alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. We have a caller today calling from Illinois. Hey, Lisa, what you dreaming?
Hey, Zell. I dreamed a person 2 years ago, just an image, a really strong image of a man, and it was just an upper body and torso, and kind of not a lot of context about place or anything, and but very clear. And the dream felt very cut off because an animal jumped on me. My cat jumped on me. But I woke up and something was up, like something had happened. It wasn't my normal dream. I'm a vivid dreamer. Often I have dreams inside of dreams, but this was
God, so this was like a snapshot.
Yes.
And it
like
felt very
photograph.
like, this is interesting because that is like, I don't have that experience either, not in dreams and not in my like psychic ways that I can perceive. And that's how I found my house.
Wow.
I had an image like that, never before or since. And it was of a white house, 2 stories, craftsman with a cute porch. And then a week later, I saw it on Zillow.
Wow.
And here I live. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna I can break the fourth wall here. I want everybody to know I chose this dream because I know what happens next. I never choose dreams. Zoe is always in charge of that. But I read this email for some reason. So tell us what happened next, Lisa.
So exactly 5 nights later, I went out to meet some girlfriends at happy hour, and I walked in, and there he was. But here's the interesting part. There he was. We locked eyes. We locked smiles. It was just like, boom, and followed each other's eyes across the room until I went and did my thing with my people. But I was like, I have to meet that person. And I had to meet that person. And before I saw him with a mutual acquaintance. And so before she left, I jumped out of my seat and grabbed her and by the arm and said, I want to meet your friend. And I'm an extreme introvert. I hardly go out. I don't ever chase people or make that effort. And so she did. And we had a long conversation. We had a lot of mutual interests. I actually worked for his neighbor. I knew exactly where he lived.
You mean that you're finding these things out as you're...
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. But I didn't remember that he was the guy from the dream until I left there and I was on my drive home. I was about, I don't know, a mile away. And I just almost had to pull over the car because I was gobsmacked like that was him. So, yeah, it was exactly 2 years ago.
Any connection with him that, transcended that evening?
Yeah, I was telling him about my problems with insomnia, and he grows flower and had some
fabulous
and is really good at it. And said I might have something to help you. So
Indeed.
He invited me to his house the next day and gave me all of these wonderful medicines. And we talked more. And I was like, this person, I just feel like is some kind of, I mean, we like the same things. It made me remember how much I'd lost a farm in my divorce. I used to be really into horticulture and farming. And so anyway, he's like living my dream life, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Now that's interesting.
It was. And so it kind of reconnected me back to what really matters to me and what's important. And then we texted off and on. We didn't really see each other. I made some efforts to try to get to know him because I was extremely curious, you know, and he's cute. So, and then we still communicate now during this Mars retrograde period. We just run into each other all the time.
Oh, that's fascinating. I love that.
He's very guarded, but also very giving, and yeah.
Well, so I asked the question because clearly the psyche is in charge of all of this, right? That there's something bigger, you know, pushing you and moving you, even though you didn't remember at the time, if you were acting uncharacteristically in that event, that there was a drive to do that that was set up by your unconscious 5 days before, right? Okay. So there's an importance to the connection, so much so that your unconscious woke you up through your cat. By the way, a symbol of unconditional love.
Aww.
Like love woke you up. So it would be easy to fantasize, like, you know, if you had said, yes, and now we're dating, you know, that would be the cute movie version of it. Right? But Lisa, what he provided, oh God, this is making me cry. What he provided was more important than companionship. He reminded you of something lost that you love deeply, as much as your cat, if not more. That is a reflection of being with the earth in a way that you don't get to do any longer in the same way. And your psyche thinks that this is so important that it woke you up. And now let's use woke you up in a kind of, you know, abstract way. It woke you up to be available for something new to reflect something important back to you.
Wow.
Just for the listening audience, her eyes just got very wide.
It makes so much sense.
It does make so much sense. And you're calling in now, and we're talking in the middle of eclipse season, where because this wasn't like last week, right?
Right. And then,
but you're calling in now, and we're talking about what you love deeply that you have lost, that you are trying to reclaim. We don't have to be literal about this. It's not about like, go be a farmer.
Right.
But it's about change how you're defining love for yourself and how you want to walk, right? Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde. And so the fact that Mars retrograde brought him into your visage a bunch of times, that emphasizes my interpretation that your psyche is working overtime to say, wake up. You can reclaim a passionate sense of self that you thought was lost but is not. And it starts with the earth and the Great Mother.
No, I'm going to cry.
Oh, yay.
I feel that.
Yeah.
And I have been doing it more.
So this is a mystical experience, not a dream. And
yes,
they happen. See, this is the thing about mystical experiences. We are multidimensional beings. And so that idea of the unconscious that we think is so vast and untouchable, it is vast and untouchable, right? But the thing that limits our ability to perceive while we are awake is our thinking mind that's purely three-dimensional. It's inserted, I like to say. Right? So when the thinking mind goes to sleep and we have dreams, that's like the standard default that's available to us every time we go to sleep. It's by design, right? So that the brain can do a bunch of shit that's important, so it shuts the mind off. Sleep does that too. But our mystical perceptions become broader because that thinking interrupting mind is asleep. So we can have shared dreams. We can have visitation dreams. We can have dreams that problem solve in a way that is not typical. We can dream of past lives. And we can have experiences that nudge us and push us into new directions. And so it's really important to not call this a dream, but a dream experience.
Got it.
Loved this question. Thank you. And yeah, I never choose. It's sort of on purpose. I want to be surprised, but this felt important.
May I ask you about, I did the astrology, and my north node is exactly conjuncted by his Saturn. And my north node
honey, that's a past life connection.
Well, tell me what to do with it.
Okay, great. Let's finish it. Perfect. What to do with it is essentially nothing. There's the spirit of synchronicity. And this is ultimately a synchronicity, right? It falls right in line with that. But it's, it's not like, well, I was thinking about candles. You're thinking about candles. Wow, what a synchronicity. This is a profound synchronicity. But when Jung sort of coined the term and discovered that there were these moments where seemingly simultaneous experiences are unrelated but completely related, what do we do? Well, my attitude is you've got to be in this sort of middle ground of cognitive dissonance where you see it as having all meaning and no meaning at all. Both, not one or the other. Mm-hmm. This is possible when you expand your spiritual reach, you heal enough wound so that when things happen, you're not perceiving it through wounded consciousness. And then you can be like, okay, this means everything. This is fated. This is connected. We are past live interaction. It is instructive and teaching oriented because it's a Saturn in my North Node. It is changing the course of my life. And it is, in fact, the man itself that's the avatar of that. And it means absolutely fucking nothing. You're stupid. It's just a silly little dream. What are you talking about? My attitude is right? Did you do that?
I totally get it. And that's kind of triggering, to surf that.
Yes.
If that continuum.
If you lean too far in it means everything, you're in magical thinking. And if you don't pay attention to that side of life at all and you dismiss it, man, you're missing one of the juiciest things about being in a body.
Right.
So both, all meaning and no meaning. So try to, when you feel yourself personally pulled, like, what does this mean? Where will this go? Stop yourself and say, it's unfolding beautifully. My destiny is taking me wherever I need to go next. And so it is. Right? It's natural for the personal thing to bleed in, especially if he's cute. And your job, right, is to hold both with equal verve. Thank you so much, Lisa, for calling.
Thank you.
Great. I loved it.
Thank you. I got it.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.